This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 64. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's Monday, and I'm back, and it's snowing in Utah, and that's a good thing. And also, our crew just got back from the Midwest Telefest, and haven't debriefed with them yet, but it looks like they skied some fantastic powder, and despite COVID and having obvious restrictions, 200 Telemark skiers drove to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in the U.S. of A. and got some powder turns. So looked like awesome conditions, and I'm really psyched to catch up with those guys, with Wyatt and Taylor, and see how that was. Correction from last week, Taylor, a.k.a. Telite, apparently had been to Chicago previously, had been to the Midwest, but I told him the UP of Michigan is different, and so there you go. That's my correction for the week. But hopefully he got some of that Midwest nice and some goodness while he was out there, and psyched that we could participate. And I know for those of you that do not remember, we do have a Freeheel Life certified ski tech, Keith Opperman, along with a demo fleet over there in Washburn, Wisconsin. And you can check it out. And you can find the stuff that was at Midwest Telefest there by appointment only. Go to the website, freeheellife.com. You can go to the demo portion of the site, and you can actually see what we have available up there. Reserve it, make an appointment, and get it done. So, not a lot of news other than that. I hope you guys are all enjoying stuff in your local areas. If you are able to ski, if you are not able to ski, we are sending our thoughts to you. Hang in there. And don't forget, whether you can ski or not, March 6th is World Telemark Day. If nothing else, put on those Telemark boots and bindings in your living room and drop a knee in solidarity for World Telemark Day. So, yes. So today, my guest is one of the pioneers of telemark skiing in Canada, and her deep love of snow and the outdoors started at a young age when she started skiing on the hills of her local golf course. Throughout her childhood, she continued her love of skiing locally, and when she was 17, visited Alta, Utah in the USA, where she fell in love with deep powder. She went on to receiving a degree from the University of Guelph in Kinesiology. In the early 1980s, she traveled to Vermont, where she met Dickie Hall along with other telemark skiers, where she learned more about the telemark turn herself. She then went on to create her own telemark business, Ski Telemark Ltd. Corporation, with her partner, Steve Kahn. They have served countless clients in Ontario, Canada, with their mobile fleet of skis, boots, and bindings, along with top-notch telemark instruction. So please welcome my guest, Holly Blefgen. All right, Holly, welcome to the Freeheel Life Podcast. How are you?
Hey, we're great. Happy Hearts Day to everybody.
I love that. I know. Yeah, we're recording this on Valentine's Day. I guess, is it Valentine's Day in Canada too?
It sure is. We need a big love share, I got to tell you.
I know. Well, at least you said it is a Bluebird Day up there, so that's a good start.
Hey, yes, and can you imagine? We got and I was excited, 5 centimeters of fresh last night.
Oh wow! I know you guys. You guys were kind of like us. It was sort of a late start up there, wasn't it?
Yes, I would say Mother Nature is saying that. Yeah, it's been late, but it's been big up where our ski hills are, and we can't ski.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I know for those of you who aren't up in Canada, you may know that a lot of people, like the Canadians, they've actually been. You guys can't ski till January 31st or something like that.
No. Here in Ontario, we're the only province that does not, and closed all our ski hills on December the 26th.
Oh, wow.
So we opened with one of our resorts on the 19th. We went for it, and we were like, okay, we got all our protocols, our COVID protocols in place. We can do this. So we went for it, and then the next day we held our how do I say, a professional association. It's called the Canadian Association of Nordic Ski Instructors, and we had a refresher day because they just came out with a new manual, and Steve and I, that's my partner in crime, he delivered the refresher from the new content out of the manual, and that was all we got. And we were told by our provincial government, oh yes, you're able to keep going. And then we got locked down on the 26th, and we were all gobsmacked.
Wow. So you get the refresher in, and then now you're going to definitely need a refresher later.
What do you mean? The ski hills, one ski hill in the province opened just this past week on February the 10th, and the others are going to start on the Tuesday of this coming week after Family Day.
Okay, so yeah, that's right. So you guys are open now. Sorry, I think I was reading someone right before I got on, making my brain think January. But
yeah. No, it was originally January the 23rd, so they extended it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy. So okay, so what is your home hill where you normally ski at?
Okay, I don't necessarily have a home hill. All right, what we do is we're mobile. And we serve the various resorts. Some of them are commercial, some of them are family-owned. And we serve, very unique to the world, is a private club ski or snow sport system. And so just to put it in context, these clubs are like a private golf club, and they have a membership that has a tuition fee that they have to pay to enter, and then they have annual dues that they pay every year. So we've been serving that, and it's all of those clubs are pretty much located along what we call the escarpment. It's a Bruce escarpment, and we don't have a lot of pitch, but what we do have is pretty superb conditions. And so we have approximately 8 private ski clubs.
Oh, okay.
So we go from club to club. So we are very fortunate to be in that position. It's very unique.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And well, before we get into because I want to get into your business and kind of how you do it, because it is unique, and you're definitely one of the originals up there. I want to kind of go back a little and give people a sense, because I don't know how you got into telemark in the first place, and that is always where I'm interested, is like, where was the crossroads? And so growing up in Ontario, it's like you were mentioning, it's not massive mountains, but there's snow and it's cold. Did you grow up skiing in an alpine world or cross country world or anything?
Okay, well, here you go. I'm a free range kid. Okay, my parents lived in Toronto, and my backyard was a ravine forest, and we had this golf club on the other side of it, and I was really determined, and one Christmas, I think I was 8 years old, my parents bought me a pair of skis. And that was the old the rat trap system. And literally, I would go over to the golf course, and I would teach myself, at least try to teach myself how to ski, because my parents were not skiers, they're artists, okay?
Okay.
So I was the kind of child that wanted to be outside, and the only curfew that I had is when the street lights went on, I had to come in. Now, my sisters, I have 2 younger sisters, they would always be inside, but for me, I just wanted to be outside full time. So then, eventually, my parents stepped it up a little bit, and they said, okay, we're going to take you over to another golf course where they're giving lessons. And I'll never forget my first instructor. Her name was Twyla. And literally, I walked up and down the hill with a group of kids, and she taught us how to ski, and I'll always remember her. She was amazing. I loved her, and I loved, being on snow. And it was very graduated, because I didn't know there was anything like alpine ski racing or anything else like that. So there you go. I don't have an alpine racing background or anything like that. So I just love to be outside and on snow. So then I just kept taking it the next step. And you're going to laugh. When I was in high school, in grade 13. I don't know if you have grade 13 in the U.S., but it's our final year, and I had 3 other girlfriends, and we all said, hey, we're going on a big ski trip. And guess where we went? We went to Alta, Utah.
Oh, no way. Really? Oh, that's amazing.
Yes. And we were like 17. I was 17 at the time. We went out to Alta because we wanted to ski powder. And guess what happened? The first day we were there at Alta, we arrived. We were super stoked. Gold Miner's Daughter was the hotel or motel that we stayed at, right at the base.
Yep.
We got 4 feet of powder.
Oh, geez. Coming from Ontario?
First night. Yeah, coming from Ontario. And you're not going to believe this. We went up the lift. We were just like, just spellbound. And I started to ski, and I fell. And I had I don't know the name of the ski. I don't even know if the manufacturer's around. It was called Daiwa. I pulled my ski out of the fall, and I had literally broken the tip.
Oh no!
And this cowboy came along, and he said to me, "Hey, honey, you're not going to get down that hill." And do you know my first run at Alta I was piggybacked by this cowboy.
No
way! He took me down that mountain. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's my first real big powder experience.
That's amazing.
I'll never forget it. This guy was an animal. He was fabulous. He skied with us for the rest of the week we were there, and we had the time of our lives. And so that's where I really got hooked on powder and, kind of outback skiing. So then I went to university, and at university I said, man, I got to do something here. I got to go out west to the Canadian West. And I was in a semester system, so I used to go out west to work to pay for my tuition at university. So my first place I went was Banff, and I'm sure you're familiar with Banff, Alberta.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And in Banff, I got a job. I got a great job. I worked at the first Japanese restaurant in town, and that meant that I had to be in the dining room from 4 to 10 at night. But what I did every day, and I had a group of guys I met up with, and we called it the car. We get picked up by this Cadillac, this huge Cadillac, and we would either drive up, depending on the snow condition, to Norquay, to Lake Louise, or to Sunshine. Oh, yeah. And we'd ski our hearts out. So I really fell in love with the mountains and that energy of being in the outback and skiing, crazy runs. And I skied a lot with the guys because, that was kind of skiing I wanted to do.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then, 1 year I actually went and spent at Whistler as well. I went to Whistler before Whistler was what it is today. I wouldn't even go back to Whistler because my memory is so beautiful of what it was like. So I then went back to Banff because I would kind of hip hop, but I would make enough money to be able to put myself through university, right, by being a waitress. And all I can recall that I loved about skiing all day was that you'd come back in and I'd be serving. And at that time, that's when the Japanese started coming over to North America to ski and to Canada. And I served them, and all they wanted was Canadian beer, Canadian beef, and great skiing. And that's what we got. And I had the best job in Banff because they were great, and I could get to bed by 11 because I'd be up next morning at 6 to go skiing. So it was a pretty good life.
That is the good life.
So then what transpired is, I got to get to know various people who were going into the backcountry. And my last adventure there is I went up to Bow Hut. It's at the Bow Glacier, and we, backcountryed in. I had a pair of cross-country skis at that point in time, and there was a gang of guys, and we stayed at the Bow Hut. That night again, we got a phenomenal amount of snow, and yet I did not have a lot of experience on cross-country skis. Well, these guys didn't say anything to me, but they did. And we came down from Bow Hut. They went down. I didn't. I was a snowball running down the fall line, if you get where I'm coming from.
Oh, yeah.
And those guys made lines in that snow that just blew me away. And I said, I got finally to the bottom. I felt so embarrassed. Like, it took me like 2 hours. I said, guys, what did you do? I said, Holly, that's the telemark. I'm like, what? I couldn't even see it, but I could see the lines in the snow, right? And that beautiful. It wasn't as curvaceous as an alpine turn, and it followed the fall line, and these guys were moving like no tomorrow in it. I was just like, wow, I have to learn how to do that. But I didn't even see the ski work. I didn't know anything about it.
Huh. Do you remember who was in that group that kind of introduced you to it?
I have a few, and I have a few guys that I recall. And I have a few old pics from those days. But I was just blown away by their technique, because I couldn't, my alpine turn, even on cross countries, wasn't going to work. And with that amount of powder and the resistance from that powder, right? So there you go. I had to learn. And so that just inspired me like no tomorrow. So after that trip, I had to go back east. I had to go back to school, all right? So the next winter I said, I gotta teach myself how to do this. But what happened, I was did a little bit of work in Ontario. I was an alpine instructor. And unfortunately, I was teaching a man, a very large man, and I was standing on the side of the hill. And he had just learning the basics, snowplow, and he came down and ran right into me. And he tore my medial collateral ligaments in my left knee.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
geez.
I literally got to tell you, I was like, I was on the ground, and I was like, wow. And I went and saw a surgeon afterwards. I did a lot of extensive therapy, and he said, Holly, if I do surgery, I can't guarantee any success. So by that meant, Holly, you may not have a ski career going forward. Like, I'm like 23. I'm like, what? I can't ski? No way. So that was another motivation. And I didn't know at the time that telemark and learning to cross country would have been the best thing for me, because it strengthened, yes, with physio, but strengthening of that joint and those ligaments I eventually overcame. And I fell in love with the telemark. But I learned it, in this case, all from the cross-country side. I never put another alpine board on again, because my leg and the ligaments did not like the weight of the equipment on my leg. And I was told no surgery. So you see, it was a fairly dire straight situation, and I thought, okay, I've got to live with this, but I got to find an outlet, because I love being on snow.
Absolutely. No, so that's okay. So basically, so you kind of had, you were introduced like with the early Nordic stuff when you were a kid, and then you kind of get this backcountry experience. And then, so were you ever on alpine skis when you were teaching, or was this like you were on Nordic skis this entire time?
No, I was on alpine.
Okay.
Like I went from a cross country, then I went on. I graduated into an alpine fixed heel system.
Yep.
But then I started to switch when I wanted to do more backcountry.
Yep.
And I started getting into the cross country, and that was where, I saw the light, and I was like, wow, what I got to figure this out.
What years, what era was this in? I'm just kind of curious, just for time frame.
I love it. It's the era of the early 80s.
Okay. Yeah. So, you're just barely getting into like metal edge Nordic skis for the backcountry stuff then.
Okay. Now, here's one for you.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Kazama Mountain High?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That was my first real telemark full metal edge ski. And I'll tell you, I thought I was in dreamland when I got them.
Oh, I bet. Were you still on like a Chouinard 3-pin or something like that back then?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. See, that's
all right. So I was so determined. You're going to laugh at this one. I took myself down to meet Dickie Hall, the North American Telemark Organization.
So like in the 80s?
Yeah, I went down to Mad River.
Okay.
And I went down by myself, and I went and took a weekend course with Dickie. And I had my cross-country skis on, my little cross-country Adidas boot on.
Oh, wow.
with a gator,
Wow.
over top.
Yep.
After the first day, Dickie looked at me and he said, "Okay, Holly, I can't believe you, but would you kindly show me what's underneath that gator?" He flipped out.
Oh, man.
Like, he flipped out and he said, "Well, Holly, I got something for you." And I was like, "What?" The next morning, he brought me my first pair of Merrill boots, the lace-up Merrills with the steel shank in the sole.
Yep.
And and it was like, that for me was like, again, another aha. It was like night and day.
Oh, yeah.
And he just said, he was just like, he couldn't believe what happened the next day when I skied, because he put me on a full metal edge Carhu ski.
Yeah, and for those of you, the Adidas boot she's talking about is more of a cross country boot. It's more of a shoe.
That's correct.
And very, very flimsy. So like the torsional, like in early leather boots for 75 millimeter stuff twisted, but like these little Nordic shoes were they're like. It's like low top, super low top. So yeah, that must have been an epiphany in and of itself, like you're saying. I mean, all of a sudden you get in something that's got a little torsional stiffness to it, and you can actually like pressure your edges a little bit easier. So that's cool. I didn't know you went down and met Dickie. That must have been, I mean, because I was just gonna say, like, being in Ontario in that era. I mean, how many Telemark skiers were you coming across, like, if any? In the 80s. It
would have been, are you kidding me? It would have been my husband today and I. We used to go, so on that old system before I went down to see Dick, we went out on and we're accepted at some of the ski hills here in Ontario, and we had to demonstrate that we had a safety binding on it. And we spent hours trying to teach ourselves. And literally, I would fall on my uphill hips so many times. I used to come home black and blue. I'm like, well, there's something not right here. What am I not doing? And then slowly, we started figuring it out, right? And one of the big influences was, I think, Stevie Barrett. It is a cross-country downhill book.
Oh, that's how I learned.
He was amazing. Yep. And I remember meeting him with Dick. He was amazing.
Oh,
loved him.
You met Barnett with Dickie Hall on the East Coast?
Barnett, that's it. Barnett, sorry. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Wow, yeah, wow, okay. So you had the cross-country downhill book, and then you're teaching. Real quick, I wanted you to mention, you mentioned you had to demonstrate that you had a safety binding, and I think a lot of younger people don't know this, but there was a time where some hills wouldn't allow Telemark skiers, like way, way back. So I wasn't sure if you could maybe, was that the case in Ontario? Like, was there ever a time?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no. That was very much so the case. So yeah, here we were, as we graduated, right? So we went from the cross-country boot with the gator, then we went to the Merrill, went to the Gazama Mountain Highs, but we had to have a safety strap. And we used to make a little D-ring and then put a little, at the time was fairly flimsy. It was either a piece of material or a piece of wire with a little dog clip on it. And that had to, be approved before they would allow us on the hills. And eventually, when you're going to laugh at this one too, even when we took it to the private club system here in Ontario, we had to ski and demonstrate that we could ski safely and that our equipment was safe in front of the board of directors.
Oh, geez.
So that then they could approve. And so we were the first ones in Ontario to bring an alternative form of skiing back to our slopes.
Wow. And this is like
phenomenal process.
This is like mid-'80s that this was going on?
Yes. Yeah, we started officially in 84. So we went through all the various stages of, opening it up. And it was so hot, like the demand was so unbelievable. We literally would come in, and that's where we aligned ourselves and had sponsorship. And this is where all of that became a business. We had Carhu stepped up behind us, and then we had Merrill. So they were combined out of Montreal. And then I was able to and went to head office of General Motors of Canada, and I sold the sport to them and the program that we run today called Ski Telemark. And they bought into that, and we then had a vehicle to take our equipment to the hill, and then we had to get certified as instructors for the liability side. We did that. We were the first ones. There was a group of us, probably about, I recall 30 of us tried, about 15 of us passed, and we became certified instructors, and then we were allowed to teach at the various clubs and resorts here in Ontario. And it was phenomenal.
So
it was so exciting.
Yeah, that's an exciting time because it makes me think. So yeah, you kind of get into this. You obviously love to be outside. You find, Dickie Hall. You find Barnett's book, which is like, for reference for everybody, I mean, that's late 70s first edition cross country downhill, comes out like 76, 78, somewhere in there. So it's been around for a few years at that point. But then you bring up with Karhu kind of getting behind it, that almost makes me wonder is if you ever cross paths with Alan Bard and Tom Carter back in the day. Like, did those guys ever come up? And they did there's kind of a famed European demo thing. They went out and skied with a bunch of those guys in Europe.
Those guys were amazing. They did. Have you ever seen it? And I can share it with you if you'd like to share it with everyone. It's called Freedom of the Hills.
Oh,
video.
Yeah. It's been a long. I've seen clips of it though, for sure.
Oh, and I'll tell you, we used to take that video with us with a video projector and present it inside at the chalet afterwards to get everybody pumped up, because it was so great. And you mentioned the two guys. I do know of them, but in Canada we had Pat Morrow. He was a big mountain climber here in Canada, and Alan Slade. Those two guys were so good to us. And they helped us because they did that for Karhu, and that's where I went to Karhu after I saw what they did in Europe. I said, I want to do that here in Canada.
Wow.
Here in Ontario.
That's fun. And
that's how that all evolved.
Freedom of the Heels, did Nils Larson make that? Do you remember?
I can't recall, but I could check.
Yeah, I'll have to.
They got such, remarkable reaction in Europe, and it was just the beauty of it and the simplicity. And they had so much fun.
For sure.
This is about fun. This is a fun factor.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sorry, you're getting that little beep again. I just want to let you know, just in case. I don't know what it is.
Well, that's the boys tapping in.
Oh, is that what it is?
I don't know.
I was like,
I'm trying to keep the sound away.
Oh, that's fine. No worries. I just want to let you know. But that's awesome. I imagine when you first got into this, you weren't thinking of it as a business, right? Like it just kind of evolve where all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's an opportunity here. Like I can actually share this with other people. I can instruct, and I mean, like, is that accurate? Like it just kind of sort of evolved in that direction?
There were other factors that contributed to it. I was, at that time, after I graduated from university, and my degree was in kinesiology. I studied human movement. Okay. And at university, my whole application was, though, directed at the clinical world. That's helping people who had whatever a disability or had been in a severe accident or whatever and try to rehabilitate them. And I realized, wow, you know what? I think I'd like to go the other direction. So I thought I wanted to see greater performance out of what I was doing in the positive side, because that cycle in the industry, the hospital care side, I found quite a negative feedback loop, and I thought I can't continue to live in this. I want to give something to people. I want to contribute to our world to make it a better place and to give people something that they may love and will be a mechanism for them to see the natural world in a very different context. And it was a whole thought process that went into that. I won't go into it, but it's quite extensive. And I thought, wow, I finally left that job because of my having General Motors come in and support and start sponsoring our program. That's when it became an official business. Because I left my other job. I didn't have any other job. I was going to run it.
Yeah.
That became my operation. And that's why I named it Ski Telemark Ltd.
That's interesting. And you mentioned something else that I guess I hadn't really thought about is if you and your husband are the only ones up there at that time and you're seeing, Dickie Hall kind of had a method that he taught on that was kind of his own thing. It wasn't, PSIA, Ski Instructors of America. I'm curious, did you sort of start at that point creating your own method for teaching? And is that what you, like you said, you had to kind of like certify with the local area to be able to teach? Was that your own method, or did you where did that all come from?
Well, so I have a good, strong alpine background, and I started into cross country, whereas Steve, my partner, he had an excellent cross country background. So it was the merging of the two and trying to collectively figure a way of how to best teach the telemark. And it evolved because the world that we were going to serve to find our clientele was in the alpine world. So we had to understand their world, their technical performance requirements. And so we created, almost in a sense, our own methodology. Yes, we were certified. Yes, there was a cross-country mechanism of how to go about approaching it. But to serve our alpine clientele, was the more predominant crossover, we had to understand where they came from. So we created our own, and that's the flexibility to a certain extent of running your own business. And we found that we could have greater success because the alpine maneuver may start with the original wedge or snowplow, and then we just evolved it through that. And it was really amazing. Now our professional certifying body has come to that realization, and it's evolved as well. And we did take a lot from what the PSIA had done and what Dickie had done in his methodologies in teaching people. So it was an adaptation, and a lot of it was a lot of cross-fertilization. And I think that's really, really important because telemark has a lot of variability, and there's a lot of different techniques to be learned. And I think the biggest thing, Josh, that I love about it is that it's all about mastery of skill, your skill, the individual's skill.
Yep.
So when I go to the hill, what really impregnates on my mind is that particular skier's style. And I love it because almost every single one I've seen is different.
Yep, I would agree with that for sure. That's cool.
It's so beautiful, and I don't know if most people really recognize that it is mastery of skill because there's just so much coordination required to pull it all together and to make it look effortless and to make it look, it just flows naturally. I'm sure you've seen that with many. I watch videos all the time. I watch your guys ski. It's magical. Just a magical expression on snow.
Yeah, I was trying to explain that to. I was doing an interview with a guy yesterday, and was asking me some of those questions, and you get those typical questions of like, well, why, what's the point, kind of thing. It's like, why do this and not do the other? Why not alpine ski? And it's cool to hear you say that too, because I've always felt like it's more of a craft and something that kind of has endless possibilities of mastering. And it in a lot of ways, it's kind of martial art-esque in that way. There's like, the very beginning, there's kind of like white belt to black belt status, and then beyond, and that mastery is just never ending. But I also agree that getting into there's the technical, but then there's the individual style, and there's always this really unique sense of style that everybody has. So I really appreciate you hitting on that. That's cool.
Oh no, I can only tell you that telemark, in all its capacities, you are to be a master of every side of it. So you've got your cross country you can build on, you've got your alpine that you can bring in, because when you are ultimately in the backcountry, you're going to need that full skill set, or that full, what we call a quiver of skills, to be able to allow you to adjust and adapt to the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
And that is where, my experiences with the other mentors in my life have really come almost, it's just built into everything. And it's a knowledge that's beautiful, and you want to be able to share that and build that for others. That's ultimately what we feel at Ski Telemark. That's what we're trying to give, is that gift.
Yeah, and so one thing that kind of comes to mind too is with you being in Ontario, and have you always kind of had a resort on piste approach to teaching telemark? Just because of the location that you guys serve?
Well, how do I put it to you? If it's a powder morning and we come to a resort and we're going to give service, our service normally starts at 9 o'clock. We go out every hour on the hour.
Yep.
Sometimes we don't know what the pickup will be. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But that hour between 8 and 8:30, we get booted up, get everything set up. At 8:30, you're the first in the line. And if it's a powder day and some of the clubs that we serve haven't groomed, well, guess where we are?
Yep.
So then we'll want to teach our clients in Everon if we can get them on early enough. Absolutely. Majority of them will want that.
For sure. But it's not necessarily like and I mean, you're hitting on something that I'm always trying to re-emphasize with people, is that telemark is the downhill technique. Yes, you can hike, but I mean, you're in a part of Canada, much like our guys just went to the Midwest of the United States for a telemark festival, and I always, it's cool to hear that you've been able to build such a successful business, teaching telemark technique going downhill. Not that you can't use it to access backcountry at some place in your life or wherever, but you're using a lift to go up and get repetition. So that's cool.
Well, I think the other thing that's happening here, the audience that we are serving, they may have skied at the club for 30, 50 years.
Right.
Or they're like, hey, we're bored out of our minds.
Yeah.
So you see?
Yeah, it's like what?
Yeah, we have a captive audience.
800 vert max, if that.
That's correct.
Yeah, right. I know, isn't that...
So then all of a sudden, Josh, you got to look at it and you just go, hey, this is a whole new challenge. And then they begin to realize, where we've been able to help so many of our clients is, number one, their technical skills are very high. They can often bounce right into an alpine or almost into a parallel telemark, but it's all that refinement. And they realize, hey, I've only been skiing on one foot all my life. Oh, yep. My gosh! And the role that the parameters of the biomechanics and everything can reapply, and they're like, oh my! And then everything becomes fun again for them. It's like to become kids again. It's so beautiful process. So then they just go, oh, okay, now we want to hike up, and now we want to ski down, and we're not going to do it with alpine touring. Forget it. It's not worth it here. And then they start translating it, because the majority of our clients here anyways want to go into the backcountry. They want to go to a backcountry lodge, or they want to go heli skiing here in Canada, the U.S., or in Europe, or wherever, Japan, Norway. And that's how we translate it. And that's why we have such a strong following, is because we're giving them the skills to be able to go and play.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's a multi-fold mission, really. I mean, you're giving people access to knowledge and that quiver skill set you're talking about. But, Ontario and Midwest or of U.S. or, places that aren't like vertical crazy mountains. Like you said, you lived in Banff. I mean, Banff and Ontario are completely different parts of Canada, but you're given a skill set that people can take and use and apply in other areas, at a high level, just by practicing at home. So that's amazing.
Oh yeah, I think to be honest with you, the beauty of Freeheel is that you can You can dream of going to these places, and you can actually go there. Do you know, last year, you're going to laugh at this one too, because I taught a guy how to ski on a split board.
Oh, geez, really?
Yep. And you know, nobody would take him on. I said, I'm happy to take you on.
Like he wanted to learn how to ski while it was in split mode?
That's correct.
Uphill or downhill?
Everything.
Oh, geez. Well, that's quite.
So I started him. I started him at the little magic carpet.
Yep.
And I worked with him diligently, and he figured it out. I even skied on the split, like I skied on the split board so I could understand where he was coming from and what he was trying to do. He was a great boarder, but never had used independent leg action, didn't understand any of that. And I worked and worked and worked, and then he went out west and had the trip of his life, and at the top of the mountain, he sent me a pic, and he was higher than a kite. And I thought, oh, wow, now that makes my day.
That's amazing. So when he got home, did you teach him how to telemark ski? You're just like, hey, this is the next, this is the next level. You're halfway there, brother. No, I love that.
Yeah. He did. That's the thing. He did. He recognized the value of what we were doing and all of the little things that he'd taken for granted, and yet it got him where he needed to, and it got him out of difficult situations that he felt he couldn't necessarily address with his peers. So he really wanted to be prepared, and then it just took off, right? He saw the value, and his ability had just increased so much more, his potential, and that was the real beautiful thing about it.
That's amazing. Well, with Ski Telemark, are you offering some sort of a rental program do you have gear accessible to the people, to the clients that you're serving?
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's why we always had to have a vehicle involved, because our vehicle is our on-hill office. And we take 15, 16 pairs of boots, all different sizes that range from a ladies 4 up to a men's 13, 14. And then we have a box with a selection of skis. We've all gone to the Shape skis, to the parabolics. Mm-hmm. Rosniel has been wonderful with us. And we have that all ready for them. But we're still, because of that, though, because we're limited, you're still using Releasability bindings.
Oh, just using like Cobras or something?
That's correct. Yeah. Cobra bindings. And it's because we need to have the ability to adjust and to allow that to happen. With the NTN, we have some issues because of the boot sizing and the difference between X size and the binding fit. Yeah. So, and we've always wanted to make that jump, but we unfortunately have not been given that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and you guys, this is something people may not realize if you're listening, down in the US or even in Europe or somewhere else. Your guys' access to equipment is fairly limited. I mean, you guys have a fair number of telemark skiers, but that's definitely you're in my thoughts and prayers, put it that way, because you guys definitely because it's
gosh, I can't thank you enough. You help a lot of my clients.
Oh, that's good. That means a lot to me. I've got some stuff up my sleeve for you guys I haven't told you yet, so one of these days we'll start helping out a little bit more. So
oh, we would love it, but often what happens is, as long as they get a positive experience on snow, they may just, like, the guys may just say, hey, we just want to go out and play and fool around. And I'm like, hey, by all means, and they'll come back to me, can you give me a lesson? Yep. I'm like, hey, I'm happy to help you, but you got to come to me when you're ready, right? I'm not going to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And then they go, hey, I got to invest in this. This makes my life just 1,000 times better. And I'm happy, and I want to be at the club, and I want to be on snow. So if I can do that, that's what it really makes it for everyone.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's cool. And do you see Are you going outside of Ontario, or are you only servicing those clubs there?
No, we only service the furthest we would go is into Quebec.
Yep.
And we have done it in the past, but because of racing, our engagement with racing for a number of years, we did what we could and held races between the two provinces. To go further afield was really difficult.
Yeah.
But, we wanted to encourage as many people as possible. Like some years, I have to say, Josh, we taught thousands.
Wow.
And we came out, I come out of a season and we were all just super exhausted, but it was a great feeling because we knew that their lives had been enriched and they were going to have, a great years ahead of them, because I don't think a lot of people understand how important from a human health point of view, that the actual turn and the actual weight of the equipment on your legs and the actual movement actually is through the natural range of motion. The knee is designed for it, whereas what happens in alpine is it really hurts those joints. And I think people start realizing the benefit to them and their overall physiology and their anatomy. They'll go, wow. So I have a lot of racers, for example, who may not be able to ski anymore because of what the alpine and the injuries they've incurred from racing. And they'll come to Telemark and they go, wow, I can ski again. And I'm like, yes. And you can ski later into your life as well. And that, I think, is another very important thing to say to all freeheelers out there. This is ski for life.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that when you brought up that you had a degree in kinesiology. Like, is that? I mean, did you notice some of that stuff kind of early on? And it sounds like you still are a strong believer in just like the health aspect to it, which I am not a certified person to talk about knees and body movement, so I try to not get too. I'd love to have some people always ask that question, right? Like, is it easier on your knees and harder on your knees because I'm doing lunging motions? But it sounds like you're definitely of the if you want to expand on that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, if I could be put you on a pair of skis and have you, all right, your vertical motion, all right, so if you're flexing into an alpine, all right, position with a fixed heel, you can only move probably 6 to 12 inches maximum, okay, because of the fixed heel. It's a limiting factor, okay? But when you're in telemark, your body can move well from vertical motion up and down, all right? It's going to move anywhere from 6 to 12 or more inches, that movement alone. But what it's allowing the knee to do is to go through its full range of motion, and that's why I'm advising you from my original injury. Your collateral ligaments want to move in the full range, not just in 2 inches, what they do in alpine normally. So you got to think about how the muscle and how the ligaments are working. I'd have to show you on snow. It's very important, and it's also the weight on your legs. I don't know. Yes, alpine has gotten a little lighter. Alpine tour equipment has gotten a little lighter, but it's the weight on your legs. And that has a big bearing as you get older. Mm-hmm. And yes, parabolic skis have influenced that too, the shape and the turn and everything else. But there's a lot there biomechanically that we should be talking about, and those huge benefits to people's overall health is huge. It's huge.
Well, on that note, what do you think about the releasability of bindings? You've been in this a long time, and that's always kind of been, it's an on-off topic literally since the beginning of time. But talking about kind of relating it to this other stuff you're talking about, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a place for release binding, all right? And I've seen it in some of my guys. They're big men, and they put a lot of force. And yes, I think they can manage and should be on an NTN or a 22 Designs or whatever. Yes, I think there is value in that. And then they have that in the back of their mind, if I get into real trouble, I'm going to go for a release. But sometimes sometimes you and I both know that binding may not release. And yet, for example, even for myself, I ski on a Cobra R8. And yeah, I've had that binding go on me, and oftentimes, otherwise it has not. Yeah. But I've always come out of it without a lower leg injury because of the Freeheel. So I'm of the mind, it just depends on what type of skiing you're doing, what kind of terrain, what is your physical conditioning. There's a lot of variables there. And what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. Yeah,
I think you have to look at those various variables and answer that to yourself because it really is a personal decision. But if I was skiing, for example, I used to ski gates a lot without a release binding. And then we eventually went to the volley.
Yeah, right, to the CRBs.
I felt a little more comfortable. Yeah, I felt a little more comfortable. But I also saw volleys pre-release when we were jumping.
Yeah.
In a competitive world.
Yeah, CRB, having raced on those a little bit. I'm not a racer, but I did. I did one race in the mid-'90s, and I remember I bought CRBs, and I popped out, and it just, they're impossible to put back on without the little the little wrench thing. And I also, funny side note, do you remember that those CRBs at one point they had one version of a leash that was like attached to your calf, and it was like this long strap. But I don't think what people took into account is when you wrecked really hard and came out, you then had like nunchucks on your leg was like attached to the ski, the bindings on your foot, and you're just getting chopped up by your skis, that are still flopping around. So, good stuff.
Yeah, it does, and it has happened. Yeah, and all the finagling. So yeah, and I've had bindings, pull right out, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Like everything just came right out. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well, I'm gonna have to get myself out somehow, right? But other than that, I think the equipment is what it is, and I think the manufacturers have really done a lot of great homework on it. They've tried to make it simple and improve it. A lot of my guys up here are on NTN now, and they love it. I've tried it, but for me, because of my weight, I don't want to be on it. It's too heavy for me. So that's why I stay with the Rotafella R8. It's simple, it's easy. I'm old school, but it performs the way I want it to. And I like the activity of the binding. That's another very important factor is the activity of the binding. With the different cartridge system, everybody skis a little bit differently, and it's fine-tuning that. And I've had many a time where I've been with a client, and they say, hey, we just got this. And I'm like, well, who set it for you?
Yep.
And then you have to toy around with it a lot to get it to the right activity that they want or they expect.
Yep. No,
so
I love
those are very common things that we have to think about because that's the interface. Because I think the other thing, Josh, is the most important thing about learning to telemark, which I always talk to my students about, is feeling everything with your sole of your foot. Your foot is doing all that work, and you have to have some of that sensitivity there. And I don't ever want you to lose that sensitivity because that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Oh, well, that is fantastic. Well, I'm so glad we got to talk. We've this has been a really good introduction. Like I said, the first time we talked, this is just to figure out how you got here. And honestly, we crisscrossed into some cool stuff I didn't even know about you. Just going down and doing Dickie stuff and some of the early Carhu stuff, and I love that history. So that's amazing. I'm curious now that you guys are do you guys have any upcoming events coming up that you want to let people know about up there? Or have you guys still have a calendar?
Yeah, I can only tell you, I pray that we can have a day for the World Telemark Day on March the 6th.
That's what I'm hoping too.
If we pull off that day, it will be a miracle. And that's what I'd be working towards. If we get March, I'll be thrilled. Cool. Just to be out there and just to say, hey, we're here, we're surviving, and we will carry on. And we'll do everything we can to help anybody in the sport get themselves on snow and get them rolling and to have the time of their lives.
I love that. And tell me, where can people find, or let the people know what's the best way to find information about your business, Ski Telemark Limited?
Oh, all you have to do is go to www.skitelemark.ca. And let them know, though, that we know people that's the one thing. Telemark introduced us to people all over the world. So we have friends all over the world. And if they need help or whatever, feel welcome. We have a Facebook page. I've got a team of instructors that I can always put them through who have great experiences in all different realms, and happy to help in whatever way.
I love that. I'll make sure to put the links in the notes, and people can check out what's going on. And so, Holly, thank you so much. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk today, and thanks for introducing people to what you're doing up there in Ontario.
Well, let me tell you, Josh, I can't wait to ski with you.
I know. I feel like we've known each other for, like most people, I meet you and then we never ski together, which is crazy. So I need to make an effort to get up there and do some skiing once COVID's over. So.
Yeah, well, likewise, I want to come back down to see all my friends in the U.S. So we're with you. I got to tell you, just tell everybody to keep sending their magic, because I'm posting whatever I can, because it just makes me feel I'm not in total withdrawal.
I hear you. Well, when you come visit me, make sure to bring that 4-foot powder day back to Alta.
I'll be there. Absolutely. Totally.
I love that. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot, Holly.
Yeah. Cheers. Have a great one. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Very grateful.
Oh, amazing conversation with Holly. We crossed paths many, many years ago. I don't even know where, but I feel like 15 years ago, it was kind of like I would just pick around and you'd be like, hey, who's the telly person doing stuff in this zone? And Canada, I didn't spend a whole lot of time up there in the early part of my telemark life, but you just kind of, you catch people's names, and somehow we connected on the phone, and eventually just kind of, email back and forth. I got on the email list for Ski Telemark and just kind of keep track of the warm-up days they're doing and events they're doing and whatnot. And I'm just really grateful that there's people in like Holly that have done so much groundwork in these areas and shared the turn with so many people. And that's really what it takes, is people just getting after it and doing stuff, events, teaching people, and it goes a really long way. So really grateful she made the time to be on the podcast, and it was really, really great to hear more about what they're doing, and I'm wishing them all the best. I know it's kind of getting down to the wire for ski season, so hopefully they're able to get some turns in before it's all said and done. So as always, I want to remind you all out there, a great way to stay in touch is we have a weekly email that goes out, covers all the stuff we're doing, kind of aggregates it into one place, and that is an amazing way for us to connect with you. We don't share that list with anybody. I mean, this is our Freeheel Life family, and we want you to know that's the way we connect with you. Bring you the information, let you know what's on the podcast for the week, let you know what's on the lowdown, let you know what's on the Dosty's View, special deals. We've had some stuff going on sale because it's that time of year, and you always get first heads up on what's going on with that. So please check out the notes section, and you can get a link to the mailing list. We would love for you to be a part of that. As far as how else you can support us, like I always say, we like to keep all this information, coming across the podcast, essentially free. But if you want to put a little extra towards it, you can always make a donation of your choice to paypal.me/freeheellife. Check out freeheellife.com. That is our web store on the intergalactic web, and you can order Telemark gear there. And we're always adding as much stuff as we can. We want to be your preferred Telemark shop anywhere in the world. And we are always doing our best to improve on how to get more equipment to you wherever you may be. So if nothing else, if you wonder if we ship there, yes, we ship there. You can always throw stuff in the cart and kind of check out and see how much it costs to ship there. And like I said, we're always trying to figure out how to improve on that so we can get Telemark equipment to everyone in the world. Check out new Telemark skier articles on telemarkskier.com. YouTube's happening for all the video content. We just put a new Freeheel Life team, all the shop crew out skiing from December. Got some great days in. You can watch us all try to ski fast and then blow up all over the place. And it's been really fun having just such a fun crew to get out and get after it here in Utah. So we've got tons of other stuff that's on that as well. So please subscribe and comment. Let us know what's going on. YouTube, if you're an Instagram person, we usually put them on IGTV as well. You can always email me directly at podcast@freeheellife.com. And as always, I am so grateful that you are all out there. I'm grateful that you are a Telemark skier. And whether you're someone who's been doing this for a really long time, like Holly, myself, and many, many others, or you are literally listening to this as a beginner, welcome to the Freeheel Life world. And we want you to know that we're here. Hopefully this can be a source of information and stoke conversation starters. And we just want to welcome you to the Telemark world. It's something I'm extremely passionate about and always want to share every week. So thanks for listening. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, take a second, rate and review, bump it up so people can find it, share it with your friends, and especially until next week, spread Telemark always, my friends. Peace out. See you next week.